Hello everybody, this is Broken Potato Juice, and last time we made our world. And in making this new world, I left my computer on overnight, and it was only at 900 years, instead of the full 2,500 that the history is supposed to generate, because after you get so many people on this world that we created, the computer has to track down everything they do, so it gets pretty complicated. And I took my laptop to school, and by the time the first class was done, half of the power was out, when usually the power barely goes down at all, so this was a pretty daunting task on my computer, and I didn't finish to the full 5,000 years. I got to about 1,000 years. But that's enough to play the game, so let's start. We're going to start off with Legends mode. And Legends mode basically lets you see what all the computer has generated about your world. You can see the people, the places, the groups, the key events, and you can see everything that they have done. But it seems to take a while to load. Alright, let's try that again. Hope for better luck this time. A cool feature of this game is the variety of creatures they have, because they don't have to design them or animate them. You get a very large variety of things you can find. So let's see if we can get past loading coin information this time, because it got done eventually last time. It just takes a while. Well, last time I tried it without recording anyway. Anyway, I'd like to tell you about my last fort that I've made in this game, back when I used to play it, a long time ago. In that time, some goblins attacked. Basically, they killed all my dwarves. I don't remember the details very well, but that was a pretty new mistake I made. I didn't really have a door to my fortress. It was just open for everyone to enter, and that's not a good idea. Always add a door to your fortress. Yeah, I'm gonna stop recording here, and this time I'll actually see you. Alright, so it has loaded finally. And we get to choose from a list of various things that have happened in the games. We can see the historical figures, the sites, the artifacts, regions, underground regions, civilizations, structures, maps, and I don't know what that thing leads to, the Age of Myth, but let's click on it and find out. And this also seems to be taking forever to load because I just made my world so huge that has to access all that information at once. So I'm gonna skip it again. Oh yes, it's happened finally. I don't know if the thing got cut off. The recording got cut, but I hope it did. Or else I'll edit it all out. But as you can see here, this is a very detailed history of the entire world. That's why it took so long to load. So we can read it if you want, but I don't know how long it goes. It says in one, and there's like 1,000 years, so it shows all the events that happened in one, which is like, seems to be hundreds. So let's just look at what happened in the year 1. Whoa, yeah, 973, that's how many years we ended up generating. The chambers of testing of the confining nets founded Diamond Board. I don't know what the chambers of testing are, but they might be some scientific elven group or something. We can go back into the list of civilizations and look at them, see what they have done. The elf Viscera Glee-Beached became the druid of the Island of Coalitions. Alright. So, yeah. And at the top it says, this is the Age of Myth, which was a time when living gods and mighty beasts still held sway. And I'm going to be playing in the Age of Myth because I stopped my world during it, so it should be quite interesting. If I wait all the way until the history generates to the later dates, it'll actually be easier, but there'll still be extremely hard monsters locked away underneath the earth that you can dig up if you dig deep enough in your fortress. So there's always danger. So the Sheens of Pricing of the Island of Coalitions founded Judge Growl. Don't know who the Sheens of Pricing are, but seems to be a weird name for a tribe. The Fellowship of Drums, that's an interesting name, of the Nations of Charity founded Sculpt Pleats. Alright, the Nations of Charity sounds like a pretty interesting group to pop up in a time when history was kind of just beginning to be written down. Let's go down some, and you can read the entire history of your world, all generated by the computer, and this took my computer probably 12 hours to generate all of this. So let's go down to year, how about 15, and see what happened then. The greatest band of the Sly Unions founded Friendly Music. The Sly Unions, alright. The Queen of Kin of the Clearings of Emancipating founded Cloistered Hooves. Some of these names are very weird because the names are randomly generated. It often actually has something to do with the actual group and the dispositions of its leader. But you can't expect names as witty as what could come up with an actual human thinking of them. Alright, it says in the early spring of 15, Rulac Sesta, the savage conflict began. Don't know where that was, but we can see it later. So let's go back to this list we have here, and that was 2,600,000 64,781 entries, which is a ton. But the other ones aren't so large. Let's look at historical figures. And that loaded just instantly. Pretty simple. So it says here is Obasp no Smuongong Uslusa. Obasp Sizzlegold, the brands of luxury, who is a male dragon. I don't know what order these are in, but I'm just going to assume that these are listed in order of importance, because everything up here is a bunch of dragons and colossuses and hydras and whatnot. I don't even know what a rock is, or an ROC as it's spelled. But all these have histories that you can view. Let's view the history of this dragon. Obasp Sizzlegold, the brands of luxury, was a dragon. He was one of the only ones of his kind. Obasp was associated with wealth and fire. In one, Obasp settled in the crazed prairies. In the mid-spring of Tin, Obasp became an enemy of the whatever that name is pronounced as. Some of the names that are generated on this game are extremely hard to pronounce. Looks like in the mid-spring of Tin, so he didn't really do much for the first 10 years of his recorded history. Gurgled Crack. It says, in the mid-spring of Tin, a Pericles bracelet was stolen from Gurgled Crack by Obasp. And if you know typical fantasy, you don't steal a dragon's treasure. Don't know if Gurgled Crack was another dragon or not, but it's possible that maybe later on Obasp attacked him. Alright, let's look at it here. In early summer of 14, Obasp became an enemy of the Quakes of Grasp, and also the Chamber of Wine, and devoured a bull of the Quakes of Grasp in Urnblue, which isn't that big of a deal. It looks like he attacked a dwarf named Tobul Ink-Grained. It actually tells you exactly how the fight went on here. Tobul Ink-Grained's lower leg was ripped by Obasp. His upper right back tooth was torn off by Obasp. I wonder how that happens. But you can write in all that stuff yourself. So this game is played in the imagination more than anything else. So you can imagine how that happened. The dwarf Tobul Ink-Grained's left foot was torn off by Obasp. So what is Obasp doing? Oh, he actually escaped in the end. That's surprising. Alright, so I guess this happened in the Quakes of Grasp, which is apparently a dwarven civilization. I'm going to infer here. This list of history doesn't list everything. It looks like he ate a hen of theirs and then attacked another dwarf. Probably ate it. Yep. It says right here, in the summer of early 14, Obasp devoured the dwarf Balmrek Whiproom in Urnblue. And he also became an enemy of the Glorious Coalition 6 years later. It looks like he didn't actually destroy the Urnblue city, he just attacked it once. Because he was hungry, maybe. And left. Looks like he became an enemy of the Glorious Coalition and the Belted Nations, which sound like pretty cool places. He struck down the human Kess blunted belts in Obscura seizures. which is a very unusual name, and also devoured him. Basically, this list goes on for a very long time, listing most of the many major events that happened in this dragon's lifetime. I'm not going to go through them all. Let's look at the bottom. Let's see. Yeah, the least important figures all seem to be dwarves and humans, and the most important individuals are dragons, hydras, colossuses. You can see at the end of their entry there what they are. So of course, hydras, dragons, and colossuses would be the most important things. Forgotten beasts also seem pretty important. I don't know what a forgotten beast is, but you're gonna have to imagine that, because some of the stuff in this game is beyond description because there's so much. The Nuslu Tongmulas, I'm going to guess his name is pronounced Forgotten Beast. Let's see what he is. Nuslu Veiled Mystery was a forgotten beast. It was the only one of its kind, an enormous snail composed of chrysoprase. It has wings and it squirms and fidgets. Beware of its poisonous vapors. Nuslu was associated with lies and caverns. So, it was a giant flying snail made of, I don't know what chrysoprase is, but it was probably some tough material. It was associated with lies and caverns, so it probably lived in a cavern and maybe lured people in. Who knows? In time before time, Nuslu began wandering the depths of the world. So that means you can actually encounter this creature. And you can encounter these creatures, by the way, if you play in adventure mode and find them. All these creatures are interactable because they are all tracked by the world. That's what makes this game so complex. One of the many things, at least. Let's go back. Let's look at another forgotten beast. Fi Akuzum Sloopy. That sounds like a very interesting name. Let's click on it. Sloopy was a forgotten beast. It was the only one of its kind. Same entry as before. An enormous humanoid composed of steam. It has wings and it undulates rhythmically. Sloopy was associated with depravity and caverns. Associated with caverns, so it probably also lived in a cavern. At the time, yeah, whatever. It's in the depths of the world, like the other creature. So I could, if I wanted, I could go write a story about Sloopy. That's what a lot of people, they were fans of this game, do. Let's look at some more forgotten beasts. They're pretty interesting. This one has a huge name. Esnust Bosa Bosda Stos Bubom, or whatever. Whoa, this one actually has some logs. So some conflict that happened. Ernit Isnust. Okay, a huge feathered mite. Sounds terrifying. It has a pair of spindly antennae, and it belches and croaks. Its bronze feathers are patchy. Beware its fire. So it breathes fire. Esnust was associated with jealousy and caverns. Wouldn't surprise me if half these creatures were associated with caverns. So, let's look at its history. In the time before time, Esnust began wandering the depths of the world. Exact same entry as before. Wouldn't surprise me if that was an entry for all of them. In the late spring of 27, Esnust became an enemy of the Prime Halls. Okay, the Frosty Helm. Maybe they were a coalition of tribes that lived together, and that eventually dug too deep and encountered Esnust in the cavern. Esnust attacked the dwarf Nil Craftedmark. Struck down the dwarf Nil Craftedmark in Studnet, so this was pretty easy to kill this dwarf for a creature so powerful. It looked like he ate him afterwards as well. Killed a bunch of other dwarves. Looked like this one creature might have devoured an entire dwarven tribe, which was pretty impressive. I don't think it tells you if it actually destroyed a tribe, but you can estimate that if it destroyed like several of them, it probably destroyed a small tribe, because a lot of monsters don't stop attacking until the entire group is completely devoured. And that can happen to your tribe as well. You can encounter one of these things. Of course, they're represented by like a character, an ASCII character, but at least they're unique. At least this game has some pretty interesting stuff to imagine. Let's look at Zerko Usan, the Cyclone of Hearts, another forgotten beast. Towering, three-eyed chickadee. It has a pair of squat antennae, and it undulates rhythmically. Its burnt umber feathers are patchy. Beware its webs. The cyclone was associated with water, chaos, and caverns, so you can get a pretty fair idea of what this creature was like just by reading all but the first two sentences and the last sentence. Looks like there's several forgotten beasts. Probably hundreds. Yeah. Anyway, I think I've encountered one of these before. In a cave somewhere. Don't remember what it was exactly. The God-Forsaken Mirror, that's an interesting name. So it's Toguat Kusked is his name. A great blob composed of steam. It has two short tails and undulates rhythmically. Associated with treachery and caverns. So pretty much the only thing unique about this one is it's not really that unique actually. It's one of the more boring ones. Osman in Istroinut, the Forgotten Beast. A gigantic mockingbird composed of clear glass. It has a fat, bulging trunk, and it has a gaunt appearance. Beware its poisonous vapors. Oman was associated with chaos and caverns. I'm pretty sure there are a few of these that aren't associated with caverns, but they're usually killed off pretty early because people don't like them around. Let's look at Janed, another forgotten beast. Let's actually look for one that's more interesting. An enormous hairy slug, so pretty disgusting. Has thin wings of stretched skin, and it belches and croaks. Pretty associated with slugs, I guess. Beware its noxious secretions. Doto was associated with water, treachery, and caverns. Again, a dwarf probably dug too deep and found Dodo in a cavern somewhere. It says it became an enemy of some tribes here and attacked the dwarf Urist girder torches. Dodo fought with the dwarf Urist girder torches. While defeated, the latter escaped unscathed. So, he's a slug, you know. The game accounts for things like speed, certain abilities that the creatures have. It rolls the characters based on their attributes, such as being a slug and being hairy and whatnot. That's why noxious secretions, belches, and croaks got associated with it. And it probably has a very slow speed and is not that good at taking down a city of dwarves, unlike, say, a giant mockingbird made of glass. So it devoured a hen, so it somehow maybe got above ground, attacked the dwarf Shybreck, ship squirted. So he fought with Cybrek, and while defeated, the latter escaped unscathed. So again, a very slow creature. And it looks like Dodo actually did do some damage to the dwarf Ravod Tapperglazed. Did I read about him before? I don't remember. But anyway, his fourth toe, right foot, was torn off by Dodo. Wonder how that happened. His left lower leg was torn off by Dodo. Holy crap. His left hand was smashed by Dodo. And he managed to escape from Dodo's onslaught, so even with his legs torn off, the slug was too slow to catch him. And it looked like Dodo managed to strike down Tekid bronze axes with relative ease and devoured him. It looked like he did not die either. Alright, let's go back from there. Let's look further down past the list of forgotten beasts. See how long it takes for us to get past this massive list. So as you can see, these things... Okay, there we go. These things aren't too rare. You're likely to see a few of them if you play this game for long enough. There's a Plains Titan. Let's look at that. Yeah, looks like these Plains Titans are not living underground, so they have a lot more contact with races of the above ground world. Let's just scroll down to the bottom. Looked like he had his beginnings maybe in the year 50. In a time before time, Aba began wandering the Umber Steppes. So, he's older than history. But in the early spring of 50, he must have wandered into a valley and found a couple people. A couple tribes of, who knows, humans? Yeah, humans, looks like, because that's what he was attacking. Let's go scroll to the bottom. Looks like he survived a while. Let's see if he actually died. Looks like he's striking down dwarves here. A lot of them escaped, it looked like. Related entities. Ooh, yeah. He's enemies of a lot of camps. So it wouldn't be surprising if my group was attacked by a plains giant or whatever. 54 notable kills, wow. Alright. Doesn't look as if I can see his or her gender. I guess it really doesn't matter all too much. For a Titan, I don't know if they even have such a thing related to them. Swamp Titans, Marsh Titans, Forest Titans. I guess I'm seeing all the Titans here. Looks like dragons and hydras and whatever are first on the hierarchy, forgotten beasts are second, and titans are third. Alright, let's look at a marsh titan. Vafis, Yemilath, Imaza, Eriya. Oh, it was the only one of its kind. It was a marsh titan. A huge feathered earthworm. Alright. So it wasn't a forgotten beast. A titan can be a non-humanoid entity. Has wings and an austere look about it. So a lot of things have wings in this game. So an earthworm with wings. Not very common, I suppose. Its dark pink feathers are patchy. Beware its webs. Alright, so webs. So a web spinning earthworm with wings. Type of stuff you can only find in this game. Vephis was associated with water, plants, nature, muck, and animals. Basically all things swampy. So he's a very swampy being. And it makes sense for him to be in a swamp because the game generates things based on relatability. It looked like a dwarf actually ambushed him, so this is the first time we actually see one of these creatures attacked by someone. And it looked like Vephis struck him down very easily without doing any previous damage. Bunch of dwarves being struck down. Yeah, it looks like titans are a pretty dangerous bunch to come in contact with. And it looks like he's been continuing to this day, and he didn't die yet. 48 kills, wow. And its lair appears to be a place called Beak Spurts. Maybe we can find that someday when we play in adventure mode and explore the world that we have created. Sand Titan, that sounds pretty interesting. Bol Umrilam Talian Isram. A towering one-eyed capybara. So these are unique as well. It seems like all these titans are unique. Has a round shell and has a regal bearing. Its sea-green hair is long and wavy. Beware its deadly spittle. Bol was associated with plants, nature, fire, and animals. Alright. I wonder if this one actually died, unlike the other ones. I want to find someone that was actually killed by someone else. Because it seems like these titans are doing all the killing, and the humans, dwarves, and elves are not being strong enough to kill these titans. The Oaks of Weather, which is a very odd name, seems to be its lair. And all these are his victims. Or its victims. 64. And if you create a character, you will be entered into this list as well. And if you get killed by one of these monsters, you can go back and look, and your name will be written down like all the other ones. So, yeah, the computer had to generate the lives of every single lives, motions, inventory of every single individual in this game. That's why it took my computer 12 hours to generate 970 years of history. here's some elves, okay? So there's some trolls, elves, ogres, whatever. A lot. The Troll of the Night. Let's see what he's about. A large feathered humanoid, has a short trunk, and has a bloated body. Its charcoal feathers are fluffed out. Now you will know why you fear the night. That's a unique entry. Looks like trolls are rather unique as well. I guess this doesn't show the generic enemies because there are generic enemies. These are just named and important figures. So it doesn't surprise me that there's a lot of unique ones here. Yeah, he's an enemy of a bunch of stuff. And right here are some famous dwarves and elves. And kobolds. Pretty much all the generic Dungeons and Dragons beings. Female panda devil. A panda devil. Never heard of those before. Let's see what this one's all about. A towering one-eyed panda twisted into humanoid form. So, a devil shaped like a panda? It belches and croaks. Its gray hair is unkempt. So this is a panda with gray hair. Beware its poisonous gas. Korap was associated with war, death, and blight. In a time before time, Korap thrust a spire of Slade up from the underworld, naming it the Bastion of Combat, and established a great way between worlds and Hatebug. A very extreme event there. In a time before time, Korap became the master of the Malice of Oak, which I assume is a group. Settled in Hatebug, ruled from the Bastion of Combat. Oh, she ruled from this pillar she raised up. Maybe it was a type of palace to live in. Created Clash Fence, which may be some type of a civilization. So this is all faded into legend. So we don't know much about In a Time Before Time. So it looks like Korap murdered tons of dwarves throughout her life. In the past almost 1,000 years, she's been doing nothing but murdering the occasional dwarf. Maybe she has some connection, something she's doing in the underworld, maybe? That doesn't tell me here. 17 kills. That's weak. Compared to all the other stuff we've been looking at, 17 kills is pretty weak. The Dwarven Goddess. Okay. It's pretty interesting. Let's look at the Dwarven God. There's a deity that occurs in the myths of the Brave City. Vir was most often depicted as a male dwarf and was associated with the sky. So basically the Zeus of the Brave City. Which is pretty cool, you know. I could write a story about any of these entities if I wanted to. In fact, the story writing is one of the main activities people who play this game do and post online. Bunch of kobolds, goblins, dwarves, more dwarves, human goddess, humans. Let's just keep scrolling through the list and see what we see. More humans. Famous humans, by the way, not just your average everyday human. Necromancers. Ooh. Let's look at one. Obok Crushed Paint was a dwarf necromancer. She was one of the first of her kind. Of course, because in the year 1, Obak became the general of the Chamber of Wine, so a necromancer can become a dwarf general. And she married a dwarf necromancer. So they're keeping the bloodline of necromancy pure, I guess. She made a journey to the depths of the world, not surprising for a necromancer. Tamed the giant rats of the depth of the world. All of them? Or just a few, who knows. Obak returned to moral flags. Yeah, this is where it gets interesting. Here it says, in the early autumn of 31, Obak became obsessed with her own mortality and sought to extend her life by any means. I have not read an entry like that before. There are all types of unique entries that can pop up over time. In fact, one of the main things that the programmers of this game have been doing for the last 13 years was writing stuff so that to generate lore with the characters. Obviously, otherwise this would be impossible. Alright. Obak made another journey. And tamed the giant bats of the underworld. Okay. So first she tamed the giant rats, and then she tamed the giant bats. Which is, I guess, another big accomplishment. Obak returned to moral flags. The dwarf necromancer Zuglar Ironwound taught Obak the secrets of life and death. A very important event for her. This is one of the most interesting characters I've seen so far. Most of the monsters just go around doing attrition, but these characters can have some very interesting backstories. And it looked like she, in Orbs Basic, she started an apprenticeship with the necromancer Zuglar Ironwound. The hidden meaning of the tower was stored in Orbs Basic by Obak. The Traveler for Students was authored in Obak in Orbs Basic. So that's a book, The Traveler for Students, which is probably some type of map book. The Mystery Interpreted was authored by Obak in Orbs Basic. So it looks like she began writing. Let's look if she eventually dies. A humble offering to the composition, which is another book because it was authored. And then she created, I guess, another copy of it. Okay. And all these books actually sound like book names, which is good for once, because a lot of these names of tribes sound pretty strange. I guess you can't really understand the culture of computer-generated peoples, but it would be nice in the future for them to improve the naming of things. And I keep scrolling instead of using my arrow keys. That's why you see on the screen the zooming in and out. Alright. Looks like she just wrote a bunch of stuff after she became immortal. So she dedicated her life to giving knowledge, which is actually pretty respectable. Let's look at a random male dwarf and see what his story is about. He was one of the first dwarfs. That means in the year 1, I guess he was created somehow. He came into existence. And then he settled in Growled Flags, Handlebraid. He became the mayor of the Channel of Violence, which sounds like a warrior tribe that maybe he was part of. And struck down by the bronze colossus, Arany sculpted thunders, the furious steam in rinsed mountains. So he only lasted 6 years after he was created, and he was smart enough to become a mayor. So it was a pretty cruel existence, I guess. Clear Fiend, wonder what that's about. A huge giraffe twisted into humanoid form with lidless eyes. It undulates rhythmically. Its clear hair is short and even. Beware its deadly blood. Okay. So, associated with diseases, I guess, because diseased blood or whatever, deformity, death, and children. I wonder why associated with children. Maybe because children were often scared of this creature. Told stories. So, this creature has lasted from antiquity into modern day. Alright. Let's look at an elf. Amala Music Romanced was an elf. He was one of the first of his kind. Well, I guess it's listing them from youngest to oldest, maybe, in the list here. Amala settled in Oaken controlled. Probably one of the strangest names I've seen so far. Amala married Kada Tulip Hollows. Became a weaver, settled, became a woodcrafter after that. He's a guy that just changed his profession several times. And was finally, after 53 years, struck down by the goblin Uzbu. Stretched profane in satin vines. Alright. Strange names there. Now, let's get out of these historical figures and go look at the sites. There's a bunch of caves that are listed. Let's see what it says about them. So everyone that entered these caves are talked about. Let's look at a small one. Brutal Hollow was a cave. In the early spring of 358, the Cyclops Ugu, Comet Zeal, the Saffron Flashes settled in Brutal Hollow. And then he killed a bunch of people that wandered into the cave unprepared, unknowing that he was living there, probably. Still more caves. There we go. Dark Fortress, Hamlets. Ravines. Dark Pit, wonder what that is. Forest retreats, fortresses. hamlets, more hamlets, towns. Don't know why caves were listed first and then everything else afterward. Mountain Halls, that sounds like a dwarven place. Ricky Roosh Rear. Whiskered Quakes was a mountain hall. The works of galleries founded of the Frosty Helm founded Whiskered Quakes. And then a bunch of people became woodworkers and whatever, and stopped being a farmer, and maybe because he retired. Looks like not a lot of stuff happened here so far. Alright, looks like it has been a civilization since the beginning of time and has lasted despite all the monsters roaming around until modern days. Let's look at the artifacts. Obsidian slab, black bronze slab. Okay, let's look at what some of these are. Obsidian. Let's look at the obsidian slab. Thana Vinena, the Stern Storms. The Stern Storms was a legendary obsidian slab in a time before time. The Stern Storms, which I guess is translated from Thani Vinena, which probably makes more sense in the language, in the invented language that it represents. So you can make up what it actually means in the invented language, and doesn't, because not all languages translate well. A panda devil, Korape. Oh yeah. See, look, this is where the stuff we learned about earlier comes in. In a time before time, the Stern Storms was created by the panda devil Korape. Clashes raked. The fury of starvations. In a time before time, Lalter aided the panda devil Korape in becoming a permanent part of the living world, that more might be murdered. The ritual took place in Clash Fence using the Stern Storms. Okay, so this was a slab, I guess, Korape used to manifest herself in the world, or itself, and then, as we saw before, she committed several murders in her time. Probably could have done more, but who knows. In a time before time, the Stern Storms was stored in Clash Fence by the panda devil Korape. The fury of starvations, I guess. I don't know why I don't remember the fury of starvations from before, but maybe it said it and I don't remember. Maybe it wasn't even listed in that character's description. Alright, let's look at regions, underground regions. Let's look at civilizations. And some of these are very weird looking, such as the immorality of planks. What is that about? It was a goblin group, so a lot of these weird names are goblin groups. The immorality of planks. Maybe they went around beating people with planks, because every one of these very unusual and cruel names I've actually looked at have been goblin groups. The human civilizations have more understandable names. Ago Zoot in the goblin language they were speaking, apparently. And it looks as if in 98, the elf Steeth Earthvales became a member of the immorality of planks. So some groups don't let in people of other races, but some groups do, as shown here. Let in elves and such. The Entangled Cruelties. I bet that's a goblin group. Yep, goblin civilization. The Councils of Scribing, the Growth of Jade, the Solitary Realm. These sound like elven groups because they have very elf-sounding interests. No, it was a human civilization. Okay. It was Oquilamon, the Solitary Realm. The Sick Terror. I don't know how to pronounce that, but whatever it is. Yeah, it was a goblin group, so I could guess that because it had a cruel and unusual sounding name. Let's look at historical maps. See where that leads me. The Age of Myth, Year 1. Alright. I can see the world as it is. Let's see if I can find anything. Cacamaseed, the crystalline play. Whoa. Intertoggle territories. Alright. The blue lines are rivers, the gray lines are roads, and different characters mean different things. Let's see what this was. This horseshoe looking object. Coolly caught the fair fence. C. Let's press C and see that. Okay, it seems not to be working there. I can look those people up in the list of civilizations if I want to. Now I can see where they're located at on the world. And in adventure mode I'll be able to explore all this, and you can see right here that there's ice caps. And I bet these people are cold all the time that settled so close to these ice caps. Libashlas, the Rim of Elevation. Strange name. These are people not even worth mentioning. The Confederacies of Drumming. Okay. Obliolo. Which again means the Confederacies of Drumming. So maybe there's a group of people that really enjoy music. Kubuk Gabon, the Stern Banners. So, I bet this place was named after the very menacing banners they hung on over their buildings. Most likely. I wonder what this blue horseshoe represents. The Unbridled Flags, Athol Nomal. Let's do plus and minus to change years. apparently it changed years. Year 200. It's changing years by tens at a time. Let's see the world as it is today. Year 970. And wow, there's a lot of people now. You can see the stern banners. I think yeah, they apparently moved, but they still exist. I wonder why it's flashing everywhere. Probably a glitch. Yeah, another city by the stern banners. So these entire people are the stern banners people. They started out with a single city. I guess they've vastly expanded over the last almost 1,000 years. The Shady Empire. Okay, I guess it's showing imperial or group affiliations of the land. So a very interesting area. Some areas are just completely uncontrolled. This is the Rhyming Union and the Sly Unions. So it's disputed territory. The Sly Union's right here. Anyway, I'm going to be able to explore all this once I start adventure mode, which I'm going to do next episode. Wonder why the land's so disputed everywhere. Probably because I chose a large amount of civilizations, so they kind of have to fight over areas. Or there may be alliances or whatever. The Everlasting Confederations. Okay, I've heard of these people. You can see the names of the towns here. Doesn't look like the Everlasting Confederation has lots of towns. They have this one place, I think it's a port. I'm not sure what every symbol means, but they have some settlements over here. And this completely untamed island, they've set out some colonists, maybe. Reeflemus. Hard to pronounce name. But they control little tiny spots of places in areas disputed between these two tribes. Don't know why they control for sure certain areas but not others. This place seems heavily populated. So all these towns I'll be able to visit in the future. I think these purple on black background spades here represent haunted forests, which is where you find things like were creatures and zombies. Definitely not a good place to build a dwarf fortress in. So, this was a very interesting episode. I think I'll cut it here. I've been on this mode for a while now, and this mode really doesn't have a lot to offer because you're not actually doing gameplay. And next time I record, I'll be making sure to do plenty of gameplay. See you guys then.